Hey guys, this is part 2 of this PowerPoint. I wasn't able to fit all of it on the one video, so that's fine. Let's start with Appeasement, the start of the World War II, part 2. So when we left off, if I can get this to work, we left off with Blitzkrieg, Germany and the Soviet Union invading Poland, dividing Poland in half, and France and England finally declare war on Germany in 1939. This is a great video if you have access to the PowerPoint about the Nazis on drugs. Really fascinating stuff. But anyway, for part 2, let's talk about it. So France and England have both officially declared war on Germany. Let's get started. Well, the first kind of phase of the war between the Allies and Germany is referred to as Schitzkrieg War, which means phony war. This isn't actually any fighting going on at all. And that's for a variety of reasons. Both France and Germany are looking at one another, waiting for the first person to attack. And when nobody does, they realize, if they're waiting on me, maybe I should spend some time preparing. And they both do this. England and France spend a lot of time reinforcing an area called the Maginot Line. This great little map right here, it's this dark red area right here. The Maginot Line is the area where the trenches were during World War I. In the Allies' mind, in England and France's mind, if this is where I fought Germany last time, this is obviously where I'm going to fight them again. So let's show up to those trenches. Let's learn something from last time and actually spend some time reinforcing these trenches, making them more livable, and kind of, flipping them, scaling them up, making sure they're better and more desirable. So this is what France and England are spending this time doing. They're reinforcing the Maginot Line because when Germany's ready to fight, this is where they believe the fighting's going to occur. On the other hand, Hitler's using this time to rapidly expand his military, more people, a lot more weapons, and he's cranking up his war machine to become even more powerful. When fighting finally does occur, the German tanks are going to go right around the Maginot Line through Belgium, and they're going to attack France in that manner. This makes sense. If Germany understands that there's a lot of reinforcements here, why would they show up there? Why would they not bypass that enormous fortification and go right into France? That's exactly what they do, and honestly makes the most sense. England and France were completely thrown off by this. They were in pretty much a tailspin. It was not looking good. France falls very quickly. England and French troops are going to be pushed back to pretty much the last available port, an area called Dunkirk, and this is going to be basically like a middle of the night, like Hail Mary attempt to get a bunch of the Allied troops out of there, and they do, but it's still a huge defeat. The Maginot Line was a huge flop for the English and the French. The Germans just weren't interested in fighting a war in the trenches any longer. Weapons have improved, fighting has changed, and they weren't about to get involved in another trench war. As I mentioned, the Nazis are going to be able to get into France relatively quickly. Also, Benito Mussolini takes his country, Italy, and joins the war with the Germans. They join the Axis powers, and very quickly, France is going to fall. Now, the guy I mentioned very, very briefly, de Gaulle, is going to be leading the French from England as the fighting continues. It's not like the French give up fighting at this point, but France and Paris is officially captured. This is not good for the Allies. This means that, yes, while there are French troops still fighting, it's basically England against Germany, all of the area Germany's already conquered, Italy, and then also kind of semi by, extension, the Russians at this point, the Soviets, because they have a non-aggression pact signed with the Germans at this point. All right. Fighting comes to a real head between these two people before anyone else joins between these two people with the Battle of Britain. Hitler's goal is to invade mainland England. This is a feat that's nearly impossible. England, remember, is an island country, and to invade it would be extremely difficult, but this is Hitler's idea. But in order to make that possible, he needs to weaken England. He needs to weaken Britain as much as he possibly can. So he uses his air force, and the German air force is called the Luftwaffe, And he uses his Luftwaffe to do air raids on Britain non-stop, all the time, over and over. England is being pummeled by these air raids. Now, England has its own air force. It's called the Royal Air Force, or the RAF. And they duke it out over England constantly. The RAF, the Royal Air Force, the English Air Force, does have an advantage over the Luftwaffe, and that's radar. If you've ever seen, like, in movies and stuff, when they're in some kind of, like, tech room or something, there's a screen, there's, like, this line going around, it's like beep, beep, and it, like, shows little flashing dots. It's kind of hard to explain. I should have a picture. But that's radar. It lets them detect incoming planes either day or night before you could actually be able to see or hear them. And with this radar, they're going to be able to effectively shoot down a lot of the Luftwaffe. And the Germans are freaking out because a lot of them are shot down, a lot of them are captured, and the Battle of Britain does not lead to the English defeat, right? This is important because it shows that Germany and Hitler can be stopped. This is the pretty much, since he started his rampage, the first time that Hitler's been stood up to and actually told no, has been prevented from getting what he wants at the end of the day. So this is important. Morale-wise, this is kind of a turning point. It shows that there is a way to stop these, methed up Nazis. Now, interesting thing about the Battle of Britain and radar is this is actually where the myth comes from that carrots are good for your eyes. The English, of course, wanted to, closely guard their secret advantage of radar from the Germans. And when we start shooting down the German planes so easily, the Germans eventually are like, how are you doing this? How can you possibly see at night? And the English people would just say, well, we eat a lot of carrots. And the Germans are like, do carrots really help you see in the dark? I don't know. And everyone starts eating carrots, right? This is where that little myth comes from. Here's some pictures of the Battle of Britain, the aftermath. Not good. There's a German plane. Oh, little kid, so sad. Right? Huge craters, aftermath. Basically, looks like giant sinkholes, right? Are left over from these bombings. Now, after Hitler started his land rampage and started taking over everything, and after war is declared, Neville Chamberlain is going to resign as Prime Minister, and this is when Churchill becomes the Prime Minister of England for the first time. So out with the old Neville Chamberlain, we won't hear much about him anymore. Now Churchill, he's our guy. He's the person we talked about when we talked about the rise of the Allies, right? Winston Churchill, very important figure. And then, of course, there's the Americans, who at this point have been relatively quiet. We are an isolated nation. We are not going to get involved in a war. However, if one of our best friends, like England, is asking for help, we might find a way to help them, even if the neutrality laws, or acts, are still in effect, right? Now, historically, it takes a lot to get America involved in a war. They usually have to sink a ship or a bunch of ships, right, or attack us, and that's coming for sure. But for now, we are neutral, but we may start helping out the English and the French. All right, that is Appeasement and the start of World War II. Make sure you answer your objective question if you haven't already, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.